friends, we're Educations. My name is Sunny and I am an Econ1010 peer educator. Exams are knocking at the door and I have been receiving a lot of appointments as well as questions from students who are preparing for this course specifically. So here you are, I present you a list of things that you may want to check when you are studying for your final exam. Please be mindful that these are the things that I created based on my personal experience and should not be used as a checklist. So I would highly recommend you to watch the full video and then go back to your professor's course outline just to be more confident and prepared on how to study for your exam. So let's get started. So for the revised list, you may want to check everything from the first chapter, limits, alternatives, and choices, to the last one, monopoly. And for my personal recommendations on how to ace Econ1010 in the exam, you should understand the scientific behaviors and explanations of every concept. And this method has been proven to be successfully worked for myself, my classmates, and my students. So you may want to try this method out this time. So the first chapter that you may need to review is limits, alternatives, and choices. I have listed out things that you may want to review for this chapter. However, you may want to pay a little bit more attention to the PPC or PPF, production possibility, curve, and frontier. You may want to learn what it is, how it works, what is the difference between a point inside, on, and outside a curve, the area inside and outside a curve, as well as learn how to use the curve to explain the two concepts, unemployment and economic growth. The next chapter that you want to review is the market system and the circular flow, the chapter number 2. For the sake of this course, you only study the command and the market system, as well as revise on how the money and the resources flow through the society using the circular flow. Demand, supply, and market equilibrium. This chapter is very foundational, and a deep understanding of this chapter is very essential for elasticity, externalities, and government interventions. You want to review the law of demand and supply, their definitions, their determinants, the market equilibrium, and how the change in demand and supply make to the market equilibrium. And especially, you may want to revise just a little bit on the difference between the change in supply demand and the change in quantity supplied demand in the market. So, market failures, public goods, and externalities. In this chapter, you may want to review on demand and supply side market failures, the consumer and producer surplus, what they are, how to identify them on the graph in the markets when it's efficient or failed in the supply or demand side, what is efficiency loss from over and underproductions, what are private and public goods, what are negative and positive externalities, and how the government can correct them. The next chapter is elasticity, and for the sake of this course, you would learn about 4 types of elasticity: elasticity of demand, elasticity of supply, income elasticity of demand, and cross elasticity. For elasticity of demand and supply, you want to review them on the definitions, determinants, their types, and beside, you need to understand in which case scenarios that you use which formula of them. So for example, for the percentage formula, you only use them when the question gives you the percentage but not number, and you would use the midpoint formula when the questions give you numbers, not percentage. And you would also learn about the total revenue test. You may want to check on why the total revenue test cannot be used for elasticity of supply, and what is the difference between identifying how elastic a demand curve is and how elastic a point on a demand curve is. Consumer choice and utility maximizations. Education has already posted a full video explaining this chapter, so we will include that link of the video in the description box below. So revising from the first chapter of the Econ1010 textbook of ICM, we all know that in economics we deal with scarcity, and because of scarcity we want to have like purposeful behavior to increase our utility. So in this chapter you'll learn more about utility, the law of diminishing marginal utility, and the utility maximizing rule. In this chapter, you want to pay attention to two things for your final exam. The first one is how to use the law of diminishing marginal utility to explain the graph of total utility and marginal utility and vice versa. And two, how to use the utility maximizing rule to find the best combination of products that you are considering to buy given the certain amount of money. Firm and the cost of productions. In this chapter, you want to review the economic cost, accounting and economic profit, short run and long run. You may want to review on the law of diminishing return, production graph, cost graph, shapes of cost graph, the relation of marginal cost to average variable cost and average total cost. I highly recommend you to draw the graph and use the formula of them as well as the law of diminishing return to explain them. By doing that, you would save a lot of time on your final exam. The next one is perfect competition in the short run. You want to revise on the demand, the four market structure, the profit maximization in the short run in two approach, the perfect competition characteristic and occurrence, and marginal cost and short run supply. For the monopoly, you want to revise on the characteristic of them, the barriers to entry, the monopoly demand, output, price determination, and economic effects of monopoly. Thank you for watching, and I hope this is helpful to you. So as I suggested from the beginning of the video, you should go back to your professor's course outline to plan your study for the final exam. We're Peer Education, and good luck for your final exam.